Deep inside your body, there's this incredibly sophisticated filtration plant that's running 24/7. It's absolutely essential to your survival, and it does its job without you ever having to think about it. So today, let's dive into this hidden world and take a look at your body's ultimate waste manager, the kidney. Okay, to get a sense of just how massive this operation is, let's start with a number that's kind of hard to wrap your head around. Every single day, your kidneys filter an incredible 180 liters of fluid from your blood. I mean, that's enough to fill a large bathtub. Which, of course, brings up a really obvious question, right? If we're processing that much fluid, why aren't we spending our entire lives in the bathroom? Well, the answer to that question uncovers one of the most elegant and efficient recycling systems in all of biology. And we're going to figure out exactly how it all works. So, first things first, why is all this filtering even necessary? Well, think of your body like a super busy city. All of its activities, all that metabolism creates waste. And one of the biggest problems is nitrogenous waste from breaking down proteins. If that stuff builds up, it gets toxic fast. So the body needs a dedicated cleanup crew. What's really cool is how different animals have evolved to solve this exact same problem. If you're a fish, hey, no problem. You can just release highly toxic ammonia right into the water around you. But for us land animals, that's a no-go. It would take way too much water to dilute it. So we mammals came up with a brilliant solution. Our bodies convert that toxic ammonia into a much safer substance called urea. It can travel around in our blood without causing harm and can be flushed out with a reasonable amount of water. All right, so we've got the why down. We know why we need to get rid of this stuff. Now let's start our expedition and meet the hardware that gets the job done. We're going to take a journey from the big picture all the way down to the microscopic level. And here are the main players in the system. You've got two bean-shaped kidneys. They're the real powerhouses doing all the filtering. The waste product, which we now call urine, flows down these tubes called ureters into the urinary bladder, which is basically a storage tank, and then it's released through the urethra. But for our story, the absolute star of the show is the kidney itself. So let's zoom in. If you were to slice a kidney open, you'd immediately see it has two distinct zones. There's a lighter-colored outer layer called the cortex, and then this darker inner part called the medulla. This separation is actually super important for how the kidney works, as we're about to find out. But the real magic, well, that's happening at a level you can't even see. To really understand how this filtration plant works, we have to pull out the microscope. We need to meet the true functional unit of the kidney, this tiny, intricate structure called the nephron. This is where all the action happens. And get this, your kidneys aren't just working with a handful of these. Each one of your kidneys is packed with about 1 million of these microscopic workhorses. 1 million, all of them working together, side by side, to clean your blood. It's just incredible. So here's the key takeaway. The nephron is where it all goes down. It's this tiny but incredibly complex tube, and understanding what it does is the secret to solving our big mystery, how you filter 180 liters of fluid but only produce about 1.5 liters of urine. And really, it has two main parts. First, you've got the filtration station. That's this little tangled-up ball of tiny blood vessels called the glomerulus, and it's surrounded by a cup-like thing called Bowman's capsule. Then, connected to that, you have this super long winding tube called the renal tubule. That's the recycling plant. The entire amazing process of cleaning your blood and making urine, it all boils down to a really logical three-step sequence. And this sequence is happening in every single one of those million nephrons, all at once. So here's the game plan. Step 1 is filtration. Basically, just push almost everything small out of the blood. Step 2 is reabsorption. Now, let's carefully take back all the good stuff we actually want to keep. And finally, step 3 is secretion. You know what? Let's do one last check and actively toss any leftover junk into the tube. So that first step, filtration, it's all about pressure. The glomerulus acts like this high-pressure sieve. The force of your blood pressure literally pushes water, salts, glucose, urea, all the small stuff out of the blood and into the Bowman's capsule. The only things left behind are the big things, like proteins and blood cells. And this right here brings us right back to our big mystery. That initial fluid that gets squeezed out is called filtrate, and it adds up to that whopping 180 liters a day. But the final product, urine, is only about 1.5 liters. This slide just perfectly shows the massive gap we need to explain. So, what on earth happens to the other 178.5 liters? This number. This is the answer.
An absolutely astonishing 99% of that initial filtrate gets reabsorbed back into your body. That's step 2, tubular reabsorption. As that fluid flows through that long, winding tubule, your body is meticulously pulling back all the water, glucose, and other useful things it needs right back into the blood. This is the recycling part of the plant, and it is just unbelievably efficient.
But you know what? This whole process isn't just running on autopilot. Oh no, it is constantly being fine-tuned by a really smart control system that's always monitoring what your body needs to keep everything in perfect balance, what scientists call homeostasis. So for any animal that lives on land, there's this fundamental challenge you have to solve. How do you get rid of waste products that are dissolved in water without losing all of that precious water? Well, the kidney has an absolutely brilliant solution. Produce urine that is way more concentrated than your blood. And it pulls this off with a genius piece of biological engineering called the counter-current mechanism. It's a bit complicated, but the basic idea is that by having tubes with fluid flowing in opposite directions right next to each other, the kidney creates a super salty environment deep in its core. That salty zone then acts like a powerful magnet, pulling water out of the final collecting tubes one last time, making the urine highly concentrated. And this entire system is under constant hormonal control. It's like a command center. For instance, if you're getting dehydrated, your brain releases a hormone telling your kidneys, hey, hold on to more water. If your blood pressure drops, another system kicks in to fix it. There are even signals from the heart. It's this beautiful, constant feedback loop that keeps everything perfectly balanced. And you really understand how critical this system is when it fails. If the kidneys can't do their job, that urea we talked about builds up in the blood, leading to a really dangerous condition called uremia. It just goes to show how vital this silent, nonstop cleanup process truly is. And at the end of the day, this is the amazing result of all that intricate work. Thanks to the nephron, that clever countercurrent loop, and all those smart hormones, your kidneys can make urine that is almost 4 times more concentrated than your blood plasma. That is an incredible feat of water conservation. So, there you have it. A journey deep inside this amazing biological machine that solves one of the most fundamental problems of living on land. It runs nonstop, it recycles with 99% efficiency, all to keep your body's internal environment just right. It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? What other hidden miracles are happening inside you right this very second?